Jalen, what's good, my man? How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for agreeing to be an Old Man and the Three correspondent. It's
JJ was
it's exciting for us.
He was jumping around the office.
Well, it's just for me, someone who was a huge fan last year and got the opportunity to sit down with you in Oklahoma City. I'm not afraid to admit my fandom for certain players. I think anybody who follows this podcast or that knows me to any degree knows that I'm a fan of yours. So for you to agree to do this, hey, we're really excited. When we had you on in October, one of the things we talked about was expectations and sort of how you guys were managing those expectations. Has this season so far, in terms of the team's success, has it to some degree exceeded any of your expectations, or is it just on par with what you thought you guys would play like?
I don't know. It's like a little bit of both of those. It's like I think our goal going into the season, like, I don't know if other teams, because this is year 2, so I have no idea, but like, I feel like other teams, I don't know if they are like, okay, we need to win this amount of games and need to get to the playoffs. Like, we really didn't do none of that. It was just more like we wanted to play how we ended the year last year to, start the year. And I think we've done like kind of a good job of just kind of holding up to that. And that's kind of produced where we are now. So I wouldn't say that like, we're hitting like expectations on like wins and stuff like that. But I think it's just more like the way we're playing and, kind of like the bond that we have, I think is what the goal of the season was. And then wherever that takes us, we can kind of build off that. And that's kind of led us to this point.
Before we started recording, Tommy asked a great question about team dinners, which we'll get to in a second. But, I think what's interesting in listening to you talk back in October and sort of watching the team right now, you guys are top 5 offense, top 5 defense. You have been those things for most of the season. Generally speaking, if you have a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, you're going to win a lot of games. But there's a level of camaraderie with your team that, as a viewer of your games, is like striking. And Tommy was talking about the element of camaraderie within a group, whether or not it leads to success. I wanted to get your thoughts on that in terms of that impact on your team. And I'll sort of follow up with my own personal thoughts on it. But I thought it was a really interesting question, Tommy.
Yeah, I think it correlates for sure. I think just the more you're around, your teammates, and I feel like the more you can kind of create that bond with them, no matter what it is you're doing, I think it's just like one of those things that without us even having to put a lot of effort in or notice, that you just become closer to the guys. And, that ends up kind of being reciprocated on the court. So, yeah, I personally think it holds a lot of weight. I think there's some things too where you can't really like force a relationship on people too. So I think that goes hand in hand. But usually when you have like a good, genuine bond with the team, I feel like that automatically will correlate to the court.
With the success you guys are having, do you feel like you're becoming sort of like you were the sort of hunters and now you're becoming the hunted in real time? Like, we were just talking about where you are in the standings and having to deal with the fact that, teams are now, they circle you on the schedule as like, oh, we want to take the Thunder out versus, that wasn't necessarily the case last year.
Yeah, we feel that for sure. Especially the beginning of the year last year, I think teams were kind of like around like that January point, teams were kind of like resting their players against us. And now it's a completely different dynamic. It just, this whole season feels way, way different. I feel like, we're getting everybody's best shot every night. I think that's honestly kind of helped us throughout the year just because, we're a little more battle tested throughout the regular season. So, but yeah, our season feels completely different. Like the way teams are playing us. I feel like just how we're scouted, how we're played every night is way different than last year.
What does that look like in real time? Just in terms of the difference, like, are people trying to take away some element of your game in terms of the coverages on Shai's, ISOs and pick and rolls, how teams are switching or not switching with Chet? Like, what are some of those adjustments that you've seen over the course of this season?
Yeah, I think teams are throwing a lot more looks at us. You mentioned Chet, like obviously we didn't have him last year. So teams had an adjustment period with him too on what they want to do with, having Shai and him in a pick and roll. Shai seeing a ton of doubles. You look at the Toronto game, for example, just kind of like a box of one, trap him all over the floor. I've even seen like blitzes and traps off ball screens some this year. So everybody's kind of getting like a different look. I think that's kind of the biggest change to the year. I get guarded differently almost every game. I think I'm seeing like a different change in defenders too. Like when Shai goes out, I'm usually getting the
A1. Yeah. You're getting the A1. Yeah.
Yeah. Which has helped too. I love it. So
yeah. Is there anything in terms of your own game where the coverage or adjustment happened and maybe it caught you off guard? Or was there a moment where you're like, oh, I haven't been guarded that with like this was a go-to play or this was a go-to move for me, and like now it's in the scouting report?
Yeah. Coaches like on the sideline will like yell out our plays now, and they'll like, usually if it's for me, like coming out of a timeout and like it's something that we've ran, like I can hear like the coaches on the other side, especially if it's on their bench, like, oh, it's coming to 8 or, kind of whatever that is. So I've been denied a couple plays. Our first time playing Utah, we ran a play that I usually like will be able to get the ball, and I got double teamed off of it. So that threw me for a loop. I'm actually pretty sure I turned it over too. Yeah, we had a meeting about that right after because I had like a turnover. I didn't even expect the double to come. So that's been a fun learning curve.
When you came on in October, I think we all knew how good Chet was, but he hadn't played yet. Now that we're in February and we've seen enough of this, what sort of surprised you the most about just his level of success as a rookie? Because it's not easy. I mean, you knew from last year, it's not easy, and what he's doing is pretty incredible.
Yeah. I think just to sit out a whole year and then, not really know what, like what's going to happen to start this year. I think he's done a really good job of just kind of understanding the role and then blossoming in like kind of into that role and then expanding from there. And he's done a good job of like understand like what we kind of need as a team and not like playing outside of that realm, because he's super talented. So, I feel like it's really easy for him to maybe get caught up in, trying to force stuff, but he's done a really good job of just kind of playing within us. And I think that's why he's having success now. And then I think that's why we're winning as well.
You've been with Shai 2 years now, and to some degree, I said this most of last season. I was like Shai to me was already a star, and he had an improvement obviously last year. Crazy numbers. In some ways, he's better. And actually, in a lot of ways, he's better again this year, where he's taken another jump, another leap. Someone who's been around him for 2 years and sort of seen, I call it processing speed, right? In terms of reading coverages, getting to his spots, doing all of those things. What's been sort of the most impressive thing about his game that you've seen grow over the last 2 years?
I would say his decision-making has been kind of like a big jump for him. And not even in the sense of like, it was bad to start off. I think he's just kind of trusting us a lot more to make the, kind of like the right play with somebody else. Like even if it doesn't involve him, which I think is a big step for people that have the ball a lot, kind of being able to play 2 and 3 passes ahead of what, people may be thinking. So I think he's starting to really kind of understand that, like, for example, like if people watching that don't know, like if I make this pass, this will kind of lead to something else, but I won't get the assist for it. I think he's kind of made that big jump, in regards to that. Probably his most recent game was Toronto. I think just being able to get off of it and kind of letting other guys play. I think that was one of the biggest reasons we won that game. So I would just say his kind of willingness to play make and kind of get off the rock.
Has he had a takeover moment that's been your favorite so far? I know he's had a lot of them.
It's like a nightly thing.
The last 2 weeks.
It was like, yeah, last night.
Yeah, last night was a good one. I don't know. He's had some good games. I don't even know if there's a favorite. Usually, like, I think we get numb to it. I'm not trying to like boost him crazy, but like I think around like that 6-minute mark when he comes in the fourth quarter, the game's usually pretty close. So usually if you end up pulling out with the W, he has a big part in that. So he's had some tough, he's had some tough clips, man.
I'm going to kind of co-sign what Jalen's talking about because I'm not comparing players here, but the best players that I played with, like Joel, CP, Blake, Dwight, you do become a little numb to it, where there are even certain games where I'm sure you've had this with Shai, where you're like, oh man, fucking Dwight's not playing very well tonight. And then it's like 6 minutes to go in the fourth, and you're like, oh, he's got 24, 15, and 6 blocks. Like, I don't even feel it because they're just so fucking good. They're just so fucking good. And like, I was at the Knicks game on Tuesday against the Grizzlies, and in retrospect, Jalen Brunson, whatever he ended up with, 27 and 9 assists or whatever it ended up being, like it was quiet. Whereas because he does it every night, and it's a weird thing that I think happens to the best players, where we're not going to really talk about you unless you go for 73, unless you go for 60. And as a teammate, it's the same thing. Like, you just become numb to their greatness, which is one of the reasons I always say, like, when I'm on a broadcast, I'm like, don't take it for granted. Like, don't take it for granted. What we're witnessing with Shai, what we're witnessing with Jokic or Kawhi right now, don't take it for granted, because it's fucking elite level basketball.
Yeah, no, I'm right there, because there's been some games where I'm like, I don't know, he's quiet today, and then we look up and win the game, and I'm like, dang, he had our last 12 points. Yeah, so there's been a lot of games like that where it's kind of just like, or he'll be like sneaky quiet and have like 35, and it's just kind of like something that our team needs and expects him to have. So it's like, when you have that over a consistent basis, it's like you don't really notice it.
I love it. We'll have more of these check-ins throughout the season. Jalen, we appreciate it. All right, guys, it is the return of the Old Man in the 3 draft, and we are happy to announce that New Era is the official sponsor of the Old Man in the 3 draft. Got a lot of fun collaborations coming up with New Era. Can't wait to show you guys that stuff. Let's get to the Old Man in the 3 draft presented by New Era. All right, Old Man in the 3 draft presented by New Era. Can't wait for this. This is Jalen Williams' first draft. Jalen, I explained to you on text how this works, but just to review, you get the first pick. Tommy gets the second pick. I get the third and fourth pick. It goes back to Tommy. Then you get 2 picks, and we just subsequently snake that thing all the way through until we've all chosen 5 in this topic.
Yep.
Tommy, the topic is
favorite post-game meals.
Favorite post-game meals. So again, this obviously is exclusive to NBA cities. Tommy travels enough. I don't know if you as the listener, you as the viewer knew this. And Jalen, I don't know if you knew this either. Tommy did not play in the NBA. But
some people may think I did, but I did not. I didn't make it.
He didn't make it. But he's been in enough of these NBA cities where he can participate in this draft very easily. Actually, Tommy's going to crush this. All right, Jalen, you get the first pick. Best post-game meals, NBA cities. Let's go.
I'm going to say Mahogany's.
Ooh,
Bad answer.
You had to take an OKC spot.
I did, for sure. I'll get grilled if I didn't bring that up. So
What makes it so good?
Well, first off, they stay open late enough for us to eat after, so that's usually nice.
That's point number 1.
Yeah, that's a big point. I don't know. They just take care of us. Good food. It's really right by the arena, so a lot of convenience, good food, good service. So,
do you have a go-to order?
Ooh, I usually get a Wagyu strip steak, medium rare. I'll get a lobster mac and cheese, a lobster tail, and shoelace string fries.
Sounds amazing.
That's incredible.
Tommy?
All right, I'm taking New York off the board just because I know JJ has a bunch of options.
Wait, hold on. You can't take a whole city off the board.
I'm taking New York off the board just because I know I can't take it off, but he's going to get in his own head if I don't pick New York. So I'm taking Teresi in Manhattan, which is the guys who did Carbone. It's their new restaurant. Carbone's great. Not a Carbone hater, but this is better than Carbone. There's a cavatelli there, which is a Jamaican themed cavatelli with like shredded beef That's unbelievable. So I'm taking, it's also open till about 1:30 in the morning. So I'm going to take Teresi, Manhattan, Soho, New York City as my first pick.
I like it. So here's the advantage that I have in this draft, especially over Jalen. I played in 6 different cities, so I know all the late night spots in 6 different cities. I also live in New York and have for 7 years, so I know New York. And now as a broadcaster, I get to go call games, and then if I'm not taking a red eye from the West Coast, I go get. So I know a lot of this shit.
He has more options.
I don't know where to go with this, so I'm going to start in my favorite city that I played in, and that was Philadelphia. I'm going to go with Mulherin and Sons, which is an Italian place in Fishtown. Every single time I'm in Philly, I go there. Incredible pizza, pasta, great main dishes, and the bartenders are awesome. They're awesome. Last time I was there, they made a riff on a corpse reviver and put some tequila and mezcal in there for me. Oh, so good. So I'm going with my Heron and Sons. And then you can't take New York City off the board, Tommy. I'm going to go with one of my favorite spots when I would drive back after games in Philly. New York, we had a ton of open spots late, but one of the best restaurants in all of New York City, Fort Charles. Was lucky enough to get a reservation and eat there a couple times after games. Best burger in the city. The prime rib sandwich is even better. All the apps are great. Great wine list. Those are my 2.
Jalen, did you know JJ commuted? I feel like everyone didn't know this. So Jay, when he played in Philly, he lived in New York, and he would drive every day.
And how long of a drive is that? Like an hour and a half, hour?
It was like an hour 50 down to practice, and then a lot of times I'd leave practice at 3. So that would become 2.5 to 3 hours because I'd hit like Verrazano Bridge during rush hour, and then the BQE is a parking lot. So that was frustrating. But after games, it was like an hour 28. In fact, Jalen, this is
28.
This is how sick I am. Yesterday, we recorded with Luca for this episode. Okay, Luca was scheduled a long time ago, and he was at 1:30. And I had a game last night in Philly at 7:30. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do Luca. I'll go straight to the arena, be there in plenty of time, which I was. However, a little wrinkle, I had to go down for breakfast yesterday morning to meet with like production stuff, and drove down at 6:30 in the morning, had my breakfast, drove back up to Brooklyn, did the Luca thing, put my suit on, and then went back to Philly, called the game, came back to New York. Spent about 8.5 hours on the turnpike yesterday. Not a great day.
And you did the commute thing for how long?
2 years.
To practice?
2 years. 2 years.
Bro, he used to take the train to go to practice. He would plan out Amtrak. I actually don't think he got enough credit for it. Like, it's really psycho.
That's impressive. You're sicko though.
Yeah, it was like psycho.
It was for my family. That's what people don't understand.
It was a great cause.
It's not like I was like, I like New York better than Philly. No, it literally was because we had just moved here. I signed a 1-year deal. My kids got into a school, and I wasn't sure like how long I would play in Philly. We had just moved from LA. Like I did it for my family.
It worked out.
Family man, that's good. That's good.
All right, I'm going second pick. I'm going with an LA spot. Open, I think 24 hours. If not 24 hours, close to 24 hours. I'm going with Leo's Taco Truck on La Brea. I think it's La Brea and Venice Boulevard. I would say it's the best taco truck in LA. You can get an amazing meal there for under $6. Any kind of taco you want. Great place. Post game, post party, post whatever. It's an incredible late night meal. I would put it up there with any late night meal in the country.
All right. Well, Jalen and I have not had that yet.
Well, I haven't had a lot of these.
You're going to. This is an education.
All right. Jalen, you have 2 picks right here.
All right. I'm going to go. My friend's dad owns this one. It's called Back Bistro in Sacramento. I had it for the first time. Very good. I had a lamb burger. Very fire. It's called Back Bistro. So
I like that. I like that we get Sac on the map on this
great.
draft. That's great. It's great.
And it's in like one of those like new, I don't know where exactly in Sac, but it was in one of those like newer districts. So it's like, yeah, it's really built up. It was nice.
All right.
And then I'm like Waffle House.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
In Atlanta?
Anywhere there's a Waffle House, the trashier, the better.
That's actually a really good call. And I'm also envious of you because you're young and you can have
It's every once in a while thing though. That's not like
NBA, no, I know, but like when you're an NBA athlete, like you can pretty much eat whatever you want. It doesn't matter.
Have it? Atlanta, does Charlotte have it?
Charlotte for sure.
Charlotte, not
Oklahoma
Miami.
has it.
Oklahoma.
Texas, Arizona has them.
Does Texas have them? I don't know.
Ooh, I've never been to one in Texas.
All right, pick a city because we're going to pick a city. Like, where would you go to? Like, should we just say Atlanta?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
That's the home. That's the home of Waffle House.
All right, my third one. I'm going one of the great food cities in the world, New Orleans. Going to a place I have been with JJ before, Bywater Bistro.
Okay.
Great, Jalen. Next time you're there, great restaurant. I think it's open till about midnight. You can definitely go post game. We went last year when we were down there. There's a lot of options in New Orleans, but I think it's up there.
Yeah, New Orleans has good food.
Shout out to Nina Compton. I like that. New Orleans is also on my list, but I got to get a couple out of the way here. So this one will not get drafted, but Soto in Toronto.
So this is not a pick.
This is a pick. Okay. I'm just saying no one else is going to pick this. I'm going to take this in the third round just because I like the story. Soto in Toronto. Did a number of team meals there. Lovely place. Kind of like old school Italian type vibes, right? Game 1 against Toronto in 2019, we get our asses kicked, and TJ McConnell and I decide to go to Soto afterwards. And who is there but the number 1 Toronto Raptors fan, Drake. So after we finished our meal, we went back to Drake's private room and we just talked about the Raptors and the Sixers for 30 minutes. And it was just a great memory. And it was also great food. I love it.
Was he talking shit?
No, he was very reasonable. Second spot, this is in Houston, taking you there. Nancy's Hustle. Phenomenal place. Jalen, the next time you play the Rockets, you need to go to Nancy's Hustle.
Yeah, this place is elite.
Phenomenal
What's the food?
It's literally everything. It's like random shit. Like they'll have like a steak, right? But then there'll be an appetizer with like caviar on a piece of sourdough that's been, fermenting for 22 days. I don't know how this shit works. It's fancy food, but it's like delicious fancy food. It's not expensive. That makes sense.
Like it. All right. My fourth, maybe my favorite burger in the country, Al Cheval in Chicago.
Okay.
Same family as Fort Charles, open till about 1 a.m. Just a great. Chicago's another one that's kind of like New Orleans. There's a lot of options, but I needed a burger on here, so I think that'd be my fourth pick.
All right.
All right, Jalen, you got 2.
Oh, I got 2. Okay.
Have we taken any of yours?
Mine are so boring. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Harold's in Chicago.
Oh, on the south side?
Yeah.
Yeah, that place is amazing.
It was pre-draft.
That's a good call.
Or I guess like the draft, I guess. That whole thing, the draft combine and stuff. I was eating that like right before I was playing. So
that's Waffle House. I mean, it's not the same vibe, but like the food there is incredible.
Yeah, Harold's is good. Wait, do you guys still have picks left?
We each got 1, so you're closing it out. This is your last pick.
This is your last pick.
My last pick.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. We'll go out of order. It's fine.
Okay,
don't worry about it. We'll unsnake it.
All right, my last one. I don't know. I was going back and forth on this, but I think I have to pick it. I'm going to go with the lemon pepper wings at Magic City in Atlanta.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that, Tommy.
Have you had those, Jalen?
Nothing wrong with that.
For the record?
I haven't.
I would. That's a recommendation.
I don't think I've
heard a lot of stories about there and a lot of good and bad. I've stayed away from them.
Those are the wings. Those are the wings that got Lou Will in trouble.
Yeah.
That's right.
They're legit though. Food there is very good.
Never been to Magic City.
When we're all in Atlanta, I'm going to get takeout wings, and you guys can try this for yourself.
All right. I'm going to close my 5 out. I got a number of options here. I want to just give a shout out to a few. Bellini Tavern in New Orleans, fantastic. The Jones Assembly, which I have eaten at many times, but after games in Oklahoma City. Pizzeria Matza in LA, which nothing's open late in LA, and that place is. Canard in Portland is another great spot. Had an insane wine there. But I'm going to close this out with one of my favorite restaurants, period, to visit on the road. I just ate there Saturday night when I was in Miami, and that's Il Gabbiano in Brickell. Love that spot.
Miami's great because everything's open.
Everything's open late. I
was going to put a little Jamaican spot that we went to in Miami, but I don't remember the name. Because like I said, I paid for it. But I'm just going to say the STK in LA, I think it's in Beverly Hills. It's a very good STK because they're usually...
You can't go. You can't. By the way, you can't go wrong with STK.
Yeah, they're usually fine.
Like it's just late after a game. I've done the Denver one like 4 times after calling a game. It's great.
What's your Jalen? Do you have a favorite road city to play in yet, from like a vibe standpoint?
I mean, there's like cool like cultural like hoop aspects of a lot of stuff. Like you go to New York and Boston, like those are like the hoop meccas. LA obviously is fun to play in. So I mean, like the really like kind of common ones.
Yeah, New York as you guys keep getting better is going to be fun because the crowd is going to be crazy.
I know.
Yeah, like, I feel like this year like playing in New York will be really cool. Just because like we're way better than what we were last year.
All right, this has been the Old Man in the 3 Draft presented by New Era. Jalen, can't thank you enough for the time, my man.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me.